So, how was the Von Erichs? I mean, you hear unreal stories. I mean, just on our interviews. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know what. I mean, David was a good friend of yours and all that.
yeah,
I
they
mean, what was your take on the whole that whole area?
with the boys.
Yeah,
Man, that is really an interesting thought. That would be something that a psychiatrist could sit around for days and talk about. Because here you had Fritz was your dad. He had a huge territory that was doing good. You were born and raised a Von Erich from the time you could take a breath. They were all Carrie and David and Kevin were so athletic. Carrie in himself, with
yeah.
the shot put, and of course I had run into Carrie in Louisiana in '80 and '81 too. He was there for a while, just passing in and out. He wouldn't stay long. He'd go back to Texas, which is good. That's where
Yeah,
it's a lot easier there too.
yeah.
But he was a big star and very talented. The boys were wild. The boys were. The Von Erichs were like Dallas, the TV show. I mean, they owned the country. It was their land.
That was
their
their place.
domain. And David was so talented, and working with him was so great.
Seemed like David like a little different than the others?
Yeah,
he
David-
kind of seemed like that.
Yeah, David was had a little more smart. And I don't mean to say the others were stupid because they weren't. David was a little more reserved. He more or less put his thoughts before he spoke.
Right.
Carrie, he didn't think too much at all. He didn't care. He was having a good time, no matter what, from sun up to sundown. Kevin was always a tough guy too. He was a tough athlete, and he was smart. And I'm still friends with Kevin to this day.
How was wrestling the Von Erichs?
It was good. Kevin was always wild. He had those bare feet that you never know where he's going to stick those.
Yeah, I heard he was pretty stiff.
He was stiff.
Right.
But I think we were all stiff back then too. Iceman was real stiff. Michael was. We were all stiff because it just that's why it looked the way it did.
Right.
I mean that's
why real.
It looked real because
Right.
pretty much
it was.
pretty much 80% of it was.
Right.
And when we'd kick somebody, we'd kick them. When we hit them, we'd hit them. And so we all were stiff.
So that's like the whole thing. Like everybody's like, pro wrestling's fake. No.
Well, you know what? If it was, everybody'd be doing it.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
I always think, if it's just so fake, then why don't everybody do it?
So I heard, we hear the stories. How was Curry? Like the one story, he used to tie his shoelaces together and he'd fall asleep. Like he'd have a match with Flair and they don't know where he is and he's asleep in the car.
Yeah, curious.
Did you see kind of the writing on the wall just from being there, even though you left that the company could go nothing but down?
I knew it could. I knew it could go nowhere but down.
Right.
You could not go any higher.
It was right.
There was nothing that you could do. There was nothing that you could do. They tried.
Right.
They came back and did the Cotton Bowl thing. I wasn't on the show. They tried to revive and redo stuff, but it was over. The candle had burnt,
Right.
and the candle had went out, and they could try to relight it all they want. It might flicker, but it ain't gonna burn.
Did you think that Fritz might have been a little too harsh on the boys, or?
I don't know. Talking with Kevin and the boys. I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
Right.
I think it was destiny, and the thing that happened to him is like, how can you explain that stuff?
Right.
I mean, how do you explain Carrie? I mean, I know he had this accident and all that stuff, and some people said that he was maybe looking to do some time or something. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
You think about they look back now. It's maybe not even the Virus was that whole promotion almost like when you think about it.
the whole
With Gino Hernandez, Chris Adams now, and he's just
yeah.
it just seems
it
from
was
top
just
to bottom like it was bad scene almost.
It was kind of scary. Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's scary to the point that here's all this talent, and then now half of them are dead.
Right.
And they just didn't die in their sleep. I mean, you had Gino with the overdose, and, Kerry with his incident, and then you had Mike and Chris. Right. Them guys killing themselves.
Right.
Why in the world would they kill themselves? They weren't even old enough to know what pain or trauma or
really was.
Worry or they didn't have they didn't have any experience or age. It wasn't their fault. They just weren't old enough to.
Right.
Well, it's me saying that sitting here is not fair either because maybe they were traumatized over their
Right.
brother's death.